It's the morning after the night before as Chelsea registered a 4-2 victory over Gent in our first game in this year's Conference League. And, besides the 2 goals, I think we could have... It wasn't able to be much better. Do you know? It was one of those games where, besides the 2 goals, which should have been defended a lot better, truth be told, elsewhere it was business as usual. It was goals galore. It was Chelsea being Chelsea this season, and that is scoring goals for fun. That is now 9 goals in 2 games now that hasn't involved Cole Palmer. So for those people that say that we are reliant on Cole Palmer, 9 goals when he hasn't been involved in the games, it speaks volumes. It really, really does. Before we begin, please do like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell notification. We are getting closer and closer to 10,000. As you can see, we are now into the final 500 until we get to finally hitting 10,000, and then I'll shut the f*** up for the rest of the time and won't ask you to bother subscribing anymore. And one last thing. It's 10 o'clock, baby. It's 10 o'clock. A fantastic result, and one that I think the majority of people would be happy with. That said, we will get straight into things with regards to more so this area. I feel like this area, besides 1 or 2 that we can obviously do a little bit better with. I mean, Cassidy out for Lavia is almost a guarantee, even though Cassidy has been putting in, performances, shall we say. It was not his better game out of this and Barrow, but we'll get to that in just a second. Jorgensen, I feel like really wasn't too challenged this game, despite the 2 goals, which arguably not his fault whatsoever, purely down to 2 really, really bad bits of defending. So for me, it's going to be a 6. This one probably a bit quicker than the Premier League ones and so on because it is Conference League. But we'll just see. We'll have a little chinwag, shall we? It's a Friday. It's the day before my birthday. It's just vibes, you know? It's just vibes. Disasi, we move on. And he was at right back in this game. I feel as though Booked did get an assist, but arguably has had better games, and that's not the first and not the last time we'll say that. At the same time, I don't know. It was kind of I feel like he definitely had a better game than what Jorgensen had to do, and that's no discredit to Jorgensen. I just feel like Disasi obviously was a bit more involved. I don't like the idea of rating any of the defenders more than a 7 in this game because of how bad the defensive displays were. Tosin, however, I would argue probably the better out of those 3. Veiga for me is not in this situation. He's not in this scenario because he was so much better than the rest. Looking back at that is it the second goal that they scored? Tosin was about the only man marking any of those 5 guys that were waiting at the back post. It might have been the first goal. I'm trying to think back to the goals now. I was a bit what's named, but I'm going to give him a 7. As I said, no one really going to go higher than a 7 in defence. And likewise for Badia Shield, I just feel as though... was he worse or was he better? I'm going to go equal. 6.5. I just look back at that. Like that goal was totally, more or less, totally down to Badia Shield's positioning. The offside trap played well, and he was just miles keeping them on, and where everyone else in that 5 would have been offside had it not been for him. I don't know. I on another day, I think I would have given him a 6, but it is what it is. Moving on to Renato Veiga, and he just continues to do really, really well for the club. A goal and an assist. It's just one game after another where he is just a joy to watch, and I feel like it's going to only get better for him. And I feel like he might be starting to squeeze his way into the squad somehow. Obviously, Cucurella is going to be a hard player to get off that perch, especially under Enzo Maresca, who is very, very fond of Cucurella. He's obviously come out in the past or recently and said how Cucurella is a player that you often look for in other teams and wish you had. We have him. And so for that and that alone, I feel like Cucurella has got that left back spots, secured. But there's no discrediting Veiga in this scenario. The overlap, the inverted position for him is just so good to watch. The passing from him, the goal from him was fantastic. That header, absolutely pinpoint precise, much like their header, to be fair. But it was a fantastic goal. And arguably, I think we've got to our man of the match already. I'm going to give him an 8.5 for this game. A goal and an assist in a game like this. It's it goes to the theory that I'm constantly banging on about, and that is that everyone at the moment is fighting to be recognised, which in the past it felt like as though many of the players at Chelsea Football Club over the last season, not this season, obviously, last season, not so much, but the season before that and the season before that, it felt like people were just comfortable and happy to be like, I'm at Chelsea Football Club. I can just do whatever and I won't really get penalised for it too much. Veiga, definitely one of those players where he's like, there's a point, there's a place for me to win here. And he just keeps putting in performance after performance. 21 years of age, I think. He's only going to get better. Where we utilize him, however, in the future is, yet to be seen. Obviously, we know he can play in that central role. I do think he would be a bigger choice to, a more likely choice, favoritism-wise, over the likes of Casadei or KDH, should he be wanting to play in that position. But then he's also going to come up against Caicedo, Lavia, Enzo. It's tricky for him. It's another one of those Nkunku situations where, a player that is more than good enough to start just can't get into the starting 11 because his counterpart is just that much better. I wouldn't say better. I wouldn't say Jackson's better than Nkunku, but he is the forward man that we're going to go with, at least in the Premier League. We'll get to Nkunku in just a second. Moving on now, and we move back to some lower ratings. I was made to eat my words shortly after slagging off the man after this one, but with Casadei, I feel like it's a very quick one. I feel like we mentioned it at the beginning. It was a very lackluster performance compared to that of Barrow. I felt like he was... he surprised some people in the game against Barrow, but then also we did mention on the watch-along that it's only Barrow. You need to maybe show a bit more in games like this and other games that he's going to get in, maybe if he plays against Newcastle in the Carabao Cup, or, some of those games, more games going forward against Panathinaikos, against Heidenheim, against Noah, against Astana, the teams that we're going to come against. Fiorentina in the future, maybe. And then, there's a few others as well that may pose some sort of challenge where Casadei is going to actually have to show a little bit more. But for me, a 6 for him. Now, moving on, I will say, showed really good personality in his post-match press conference, post-match, interview. And great perseverance with the goal. He clearly has the passion. He clearly has the desire. He clearly is a player that understands Maresca's style of play. He's obviously played with him before. He was his main man at Leicester last season. And so whilst he is struggling to find his way at Chelsea so far, a goal for him here has probably done him a world of good. And in the build-up to the goal, I was slagging him off, saying, most people weren't excited for him. I don't think it's going to work out for him. And then he scores immediately. So I ate my words. I'm going to give him a 7.5. I just don't think the goal warrants an 8 or more than 7.5. I think a 7.5 is a very good rating. If you go through these player ratings that I've done so far on this season, you'll note that a 7.5 is a very, very good rating and not to be scoffed at all. Do you know what I mean? So moving on. I will say I'm excited to see what that goal has done for KDH moving forwards. If that's going to give him confidence, it fucking should have, to be completely honest with you. So hopefully I continue to eat my words and he provides more exciting times moving forward. With that said, moving forward, Pedro Neto once again on the score sheet. A fantastic goal from him on the half volley. And again, showcasing that whilst he may not have had, well, no, he was heavily involved in this game. I thought it was a very, very good outing for him. What are we saying? Some of these stats: 5 chances created. He made 32 accurate passes out of a possible 33 for a 97% pass accuracy. Shot accuracy 1 out of 2. Big chances, all that sort of stuff. It was a good game for him, to say the least. But to no surprise of mine, I've already said that I think he's going to be a really, really instrumental player moving forward in the future. And Madueke, he's got someone breathing down his neck. He really does have someone breathing down his neck. I'm going to give him an 8, purely because I just think he is fantastic. I really do. And moving forward, I do think he's gonna take Madueke's regular spot in the Premier League. It's only a matter of time. I think Madueke needs to wake up just a little bit more and smell the coffee, so to speak. And otherwise, Neto's going to come in and sweep that spot clean under his nose, so to speak. Moving on now to the final 3, and I will say very quickly, just I don't know. A lot of the game was a blur for me because I was partaking in some beverages, and it did seem as though the game went very quick. At the same time, I just don't know. I think I'm going to go with a 7 for Joao Felix. It was a bit of a non-influential game, not really a game where I saw anything where I was like, wow, I think Alex has coined him as Twinkle Toes because of how he plays on the ball, but that wasn't necessarily implying that he was doing anything amazing. Kill me in the chat. I'm expecting it. A 7.5 for Mikhailo Mudryk, maybe his highest rating so far from me this season. I think that this was most likely his best performance, maybe even at Chelsea Football Club, at least this season. A good assist, a very good assist at that. Renato Veiga, I thought, had to do most of the hard work, though, as it was a bit behind him. But besides that, I want to see more of the same. The desire, the intensity that we saw from him today, it was a little bit more controlled, a little bit more at ease than it was in previous games where it just seems like he's a bit of a headless chicken. That said, there were a couple of instances of Mudryk being Mudryk, but I feel like that this was a game where it's hard to really criticize him in any way. At the same time, though, we had a little chat in the post-pod on Playback after the game, and he became the topic of conversation in the sense that this is what it should be. These are the games that you should be performing in. He didn't do well in a lot of the games that he's been in recently, and it just seems as though the pressure's getting all too much for him. Although he's had arguably his best game of the season, it almost brought on a bit more criticism of like, we can't baby you for much longer. An assist is an assist. It's great to see, but we're not going to give you massive applause and all that sort of thing, because this is something that we should be seeing on a regular basis. You've been here. This is your 3rd season at Chelsea Football Club. Now, take what you've got from this game, move forwards, and use that as momentum. It's something that he really struggles with, is moving with momentum and taking that sort of the positives of a good performance and moving forward into the next game, And I know he doesn't get regular game time, but that's mostly down to his own fault. I just feel we are yet to see the full and final picture of Mikhail Mudryk. But I also feel like time might be running out, and that a low move is more good than anything else. That said, it sounds negative what I'm trying to say. I just want more. I just want more of this, more of that going forward, and I think he'll have such a better time, to be completely honest with you. Last but not least, obviously we've got Mark Guiu and Tyreek George, fairly uninfluential in the scheme of things. Nkunku with his quintessential goal. It wasn't too much else, though, from him. I felt like he was relatively quiet for the most of the game. Yeah, the fact that he can have a quiet game but still got to get on the score sheet says a lot. Yeah, clinical, does what he needs to do, played for 80 minutes, allowed Guiu to get 10 minutes of game time, and we got to see the balloon, all that good stuff. It's really as simple as that. I don't think there's much more else to say other than Nkunku scores goals. He scores goals, even when it's fairly bang average of a performance. And I don't mean that in like a disrespectful way. I mean, like it's a general performance from him, and you know he's managed to still get a goal. That is the sign of a forward man that you want in your squad. With that said, Jorgensen 6, Disasi 6.5, as well as Badiashile tossed in 7, an 8.5, and man of the match performance from Renato Veiga with Cassidy 6, a 7.5 for KDH, and Joao Felix a 7. The front three of Neto, Mudryk, and Nkunku pick up an 8 and 7.5s respectively. With that said, boys and girls, we move on now to Nottingham Forest before an international break. Expect a preview from me tomorrow. And yeah, watch along as usual on Sunday, 2 p.m. kickoff. I'll be starting on this channel as always an hour and a half before kickoff. So it'll be about a 12:30 start to the stream. Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell notification to be notified of any future content on the channel. My name is Harry, up the Chelsea, and peace.